Happy Friday. What's going on, Croup, man? How you doing, sir?
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm gonna make sure everybody know that we live. And yeah, we're gonna be talking about Nas's It Was Written 25th anniversary. One of the man, it's a controversial album in hip hop circles, right? You got some people who feel like this album is better than Illmatic, and you have some people who feel like it's nowhere near it, and it was a drop off. I know what the temperature was like when it first came out, but I think people really appreciate Illmatic. I'm sorry, not see, I'm calling his name out. Appreciate It Was Written more as time has gone on. And we're also gonna talk about Tyler the Creator dropping the album of the year last week. What let's go to that. I mean, what do the people in the room want to hear about? I know everybody's still coming in the room. Y'all want to hear about It Was Written? We're gonna talk about that. Y'all want to talk about this Tyler the Creator album? Let us know in the chat, and let us know what your favorite song on It Was Written is also. But since you wrote the review, a really dope review by the way, you gave Tyler the Creator 4.75 out of 5.
I did.
What were some of your thoughts from Tyler's new album?
I mean, I had a lot of thoughts about it. I mean, I guess my overall thought after the first listen was that I didn't know what the best track was, and that's usually the mark of a great album.
Right. Well, you know what? Speaking of best track, and people are already going in talking about their favorite track song, It Was Written. Maybe we need to go ahead and cover that first.
This
We
is the
got
best
Take It
one.
in Blood. Um,
I love Taking in Blood. We're gonna
what's your
talk about
favorite
Taking
song
in
on It
Blood.
Was Written before? Oh, the setup. I like that one too. What's your favorite song
Yeah,
on It
you
Was
heard me.
Written?
So, who, me?
Yeah, yeah. What's your favorite song on It Was Written if we're going to talk about that?
They actually just named two of my top three. The other one is the one that just got released today. That's one of your favorites too, Mike. My favorite tracks off It Was Written, because I look at stuff on the basis of replay value too
Mm-hmm.
over a course of time.
Right.
Like, so let me say this right quick. I Gave You Power is still the most lyrical song on that album.
Two people
But
have mentioned I Gave You Power, by the way.
right,
Okay.
right. No, 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 no. Those are the best four songs on that album to me. There, I Gave You Power, Take It in Blood, Silent Murder, and The Setup. The replay value of I Gave You Power, because the content matter is so heavy, it's still hard to digest a little bit, Mike. And I'm not saying hard in the sense that you can't understand what he's saying. I'm saying the fluidity of the track and how it's flowing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's easier to listen to Silent Murder and The Setup. Um, I would probably lean on The Setup, and here's why. I told you this, Mike. I think The Setup is just as good as Niggas Bleed by
The,
Big.
the setup is dope. That's your favorite song on It Was Written. So we are counting Silent Murder, which got released, I guess,
Okay,
re-released today.
so I want to get into that too, Mike, because it's funny that you say that, because I was just listening to Silent Murder and I was like, well, hold on, like I was 15 years old in '96 when this album dropped, so it's like I remember the tape, and
Mm-hmm.
so I don't look at Silent Murder like an unreleased song.
Right.
But if it is an unreleased song, Mike, it's his best unreleased song.
By far. You know, it's my favorite Nas song. And, you know, I bought the CD of It Was Written back in the day, and I was upset that Silent Murder wasn't on there.
Me too. Highly pissed
Yeah.
off. You could get the UK London version back in the day, but you had to spend $30
Mm.
to just get Silent Murder on the CD. And here was the thing with Silent Murder too, is like on the original listing where it was scrunched between, it was right after Taken in Blood and right before Nas is Coming.
Ah, see, they put it at the end. They put it after If I Ruled the World on this, man. And it's like,
Yeah.
man, it's sort of like the conclusion. The color purple niggas is come on, man. Rapping niggas up in this movement. Cops
He's
versus the block, shorties get school quick. Lesson number
oh
one, if
man.
you arrested and hung, where niggas is from, gotta keep a lid on your tongue. It's like silent murder. I hit blunts hard like Ray Mercer. The violent words of a prince in the palace of Persia. The cognac merchant. Come on, man. I'm like, yo, this.
But who
I was
found one of
so
those
upset when that wasn't on the
brains?
CD. That was the one I wanted on the album. So yeah, if we're
No, Mike,
counting that,
Mike,
Silent Murder is my
no, Mike,
favorite
the coolest
song on
shit
the
on there
album.
was when he was like, was it the mind of the CIA that bumped off Malik Shabazz? Fuck what they teach in class. I'm gonna reach the mass.
Yeah. Out of
Yeah,
line niggas get smacked backwards. So wear it if the cat fits. That you know what, and I think that's what it is too. Like for me, I know people like different dimensions of certain artists, right? Especially when you got artists who have such an illustrious career. When you see a lot of different sides of them, that's my favorite Nas. Like I like the militant, educational Nas is saying things that most rappers in his peer group aren't saying. You know what I mean? And that's why, like, when we were talking about Nasir the other day on that intro, I'm like, he's taking it there. That's that Nas. And so that's probably why I like Silent Murder so much because he's taking it there on that record.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying. First of all, I don't think Silent Murder is the. If we're counting Silent Murder as an unreleased song, it's not the best by far. Because I want to give Do Rag some honorable mention. Do Rag is
Okay.
a beautiful, wonderful, and
He's taking it
record.
there on that record too.
Yeah, I immediately thought of Do Rags when I thought of Silent Murder. It's like those are his two best unreleased songs. If we count Silent Murder as unreleased, so if we're counting the stuff that's on It Was Written, the most lyrical song is If I Gave You Power. I think his best like performance on the mic is probably Take It in Blood. But the best song on there is The Setup, and I'm going to tell you why I think that is.
Not The Message, because that's been mentioned a few times. But go ahead.
No, I get it. I understand how people feel about The Message. Like for me, it's a classic song. It's one of the best records on It Was Written, and I know how a lot of people feel about that record.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the best song on there, in my opinion. But if you told me it was, like, I wouldn't argue with you. Like, you know, it would probably be the next song. Either that or Live Nigga Rap would probably be the songs that would round out my top 5 about the best 5 songs on It Was Written.
Live Nigga Rap is hard.
Yeah, right. His verse on there is bananas too, Mike. He's bananas on his whole albums lyrically. He's somewhere else. Like very few people have stepped lyrically on this album.
Before you get into the setup, that verse was crazy, man, because I was pulling in today and just listening to Silent Murder, and I went back a couple of songs, and then I got stuck on Live Nigga Rap, and he sounds like his pitch is high. It sounds like he's fresh off of Illmatic on that song. I don't know I don't know what the first song they recorded was, but he sounds like Illmatic Nas with It Was Written flow on Live Nigga Rap.
So he sounds great with Havoc over Havoc's tracks.
Oh yeah.
Live Nigga Rap and the setup are produced by Havoc.
Perfect segue into the setup. Go ahead.
So the setup for one, that's what I mean. So like for me, I think Nas is at his best when he's actually like on his clean spree shit. So like the Havoc's doing the beat, he's got him on his QB shit. Mm-hmm. Nas is one of the few MCs that can show his array of skills through the format of storytelling. As in, he can still keep the lyricism at a 10 and the entertainment level high, but still be detail oriented enough that you can follow the story. And so that's why the setup is the best song. Like, no, lyrically, he's still hot, but he's also visually giving you the story as well. And the beat is bumping and it rides, so it's got an entertainment factor. And it's moving fast paced. And another thing, this is what I mean, it has Nas out of what I would call like his typical element. Oh, you can tell vocally that he's going in on the track and keeping pace with it. You don't find Nas doing that a lot. Like, he's not doing that on Silent Murder. He's not doing that on Take It in Blood. He's not doing that on The Message.
No, that's real.
On the setup and on Live Nigga Rap, Mike, he is. That's because I told you, Mike, Havoc's beat brings something out of Nas, something different, where it's like he ups to the ante vocally in terms of how he attacks the beat. And so you have a more intense Nas. You still have the same lyrical Nas. You still have the same poetic Nas. You still have the detail-oriented Nas. The story is great. It's grimy. It's great. It's some nasty Nas. It's perfect, Mike. He even got he's even putting the whole Firm thing together by writing the story and putting AZ and the chicks in it. So he set the whole scene too. Like, it's sick, Mike.
I would love for kind of like what him and Kanye did in 2018. I would love for him and Havoc to get together and just make like an EP where it's just Nas and just Havoc beats. Because you're right, he sounds great over Havoc stuff. Yes. We got people in the chat saying It Was Written was definitely 5 mics. Andre Shashir wants to know what I'm pouring up. This is nothing but a little bit of Crown Reserve. And JJ the writer says It Was Written as 5 mics. A classic. Nas has 3 classics, and It Was Written is one of them. I want to ask you, because we do a lot of ratings, and we're about to get into that rating from Tyler's album from last week. Would you give It Was Written 5 mics?
It's so hard to do that because that would be giving it the same rating as Illmatic.
I
But
would give
he's
the
made
lyrics
other
five,
classic
but I think
albums,
the
so
song
so this is what
composition,
I
no.
mean. So it's like, would I give it a 5? Yes, but this is what I mean. Not all fives are created equal.
Not at all. You think it's a 5. I think it's a
I
5
mean,
lyrically, but I don't know if
so,
the song composition is a 5. I don't know.
so for me, Mike, I don't find there to be any like necessarily suspect songs on there. Mike, lyrically, Mike, it's like you said, like that guy right there. Oh, like it can't
Yeah.
nobody rap with that guy.
What?
No.
Well, you know what?
So
Let me ask the people in the room, because you and I debate about this all the time. You said there were no suspect songs on there. What do y'all in the room think about the collaboration with Nas and Dr. Dre? Nas is coming from It Was Written. I never liked that song. Coop swears by that song.
I
Yep,
don't swear
Andre
by.
Shasher just put in there. He said people didn't like Nas is coming, so I guess he already knew that one was coming. Donovan
He did.
says 4.5. He gives that album a 4.5.
I think what did it get when it came out? I think it got 4 when it came out. It's definitely better than 4, Mike. Like the first like 6, 7 songs are better than 4. But I mean, I mean, Mike, you're right. I think it's really the production that hurt the album. There were
Hmm.
some beats on there that I just was like, what are you doing? Black Girl Lost comes to mind. You know,
I was
I
thinking
was,
that too, and I think everybody feels the sentiment of Black Girl Lost and the
all,
direction.
all,
But yeah,
well, I'm also think not having Pete Rock on there because people like, Pete Rock made The World Is Yours. Why is Pete Rock not on It Was Written?
yeah.
Why is there only one primo track? Because the one primo track is stellar and it happens early in the album, so it makes you think, okay, where are the other 2, 3 primo tracks at too? Because they just gave you I Gave You Power, and so you're like, so it kind of he threw me
Where's
for a
Large
loop.
Professor?
It's kind of funny. He posted on his page, and I just saw it about an hour ago, an interview that he did in '96, and he
Hmm.
was talking about how like It Was Written wasn't for like Queensbridge. He was like, we still keeping it Queensbridge, but he's like, but it's a bigger view, and I think like the bigger view threw a lot of us off, and even him off. I think he stepped into some things production wise, where he got encouraged to do some things that we probably didn't want to see him do. And I think if he had to take it back production wise, he would have probably taken things differently too. Like a different.
I saw that interview that he posted. Not to interrupt you, but when I saw that, I thought that was Steve Stout talking. You know what I'm saying? And a young Nas putting that in his ear, because really that doesn't even make sense. Q-Tip's not from Queensbridge. Pete Rock's not from Queensbridge. You know what I'm saying? Large Professor, I don't think it's from Queensbridge either. If
Oh,
anything,
no, no.
you have more Queensbridge production on It Was Written with having LES and Havoc.
I was about to say, like I was about to say, I think Q-Tip and Large Professor are from Queens, though, aren't they?
They're
Even
from
though they're not from the
Queens,
Bridge.
but yeah, they're from like, well, yeah,
No, I get
Boulevard and
what you're
Linden.
saying.
But you know what I mean? Like,
No, I get what
Queensbridge
you're
is
saying.
different than, where LL's from in Queens. You know what I mean? Or
No,
Hollis, Queens, or Run DMC's from. Like, it's a whole different thing.
no. I get what you're saying, but it ain't like they too far away. They caught the vibe and caught the wave for a reason. It's because they were close by enough to catch it. I mean, Pete Rock was the only one that was really like, I guess you would say far away because he's
Right.
from Mount Vernon.
And I think,
Right.
not to go on a tangent, but I think that's one of the reasons why Pete Rock didn't get the level of work or placement that Premier got in the 90s either, because he was so far up. And Premier was in D&D Studios where everybody was coming through.
Yeah,
Um,
didn't they have a con in Brooklyn? Didn't like him and Guru have like a spot in Brooklyn when they were like
hmm
making like the last couple Gangstar albums? Like, yeah.
Yeah, proximity is everything, especially back then. You know what I'm saying? People weren't sharing wave files and sending stuff to people. They were pulling up and collaborating. Um,
With records.
with records. Yeah, you heard that story about Life's a Bitch, right? LES produced, and basically the
Say that
record
again.
that
What
he
you
was supposed to be bringing was supposed to be Juicy.
Human Nature?
That
No,
sample.
I thought it was Human Nature. I thought it was Human Nature.
Oh no, I've heard the Juicy sample, the M2A.
Either way,
Juicy
yeah,
Fruit, but yeah, but it was supposed to be a different record. He left it at home, and they had to run with the record that they had. So yeah,
right.
I mean, in a file sharing era, that would be a whole different song. Um, But yes, I think that I don't know, man. It was written. I think it's a five lyrically. But when you talk about song structure and what we know this guy can do, because that's the other thing too. That's always gonna be a looming thing when you're making anything past your first album. We know what this person's capable of, song wise. So when you hear like a Nas is coming, which Williams says the weakest song on the album, when you hear a Nas is coming or you hear a Black Girl Lost, you're like, this can go. But what I will say about It Was Written, if the best 9 songs were taken, like the 9 songs that are on Illmatic, it might be better than Illmatic.
That's a possibility. So, what 9 songs would you take? So, I'm assuming we would take The Message.
Well, let's go to the track list here. And we'll put the track list on the screen. And yeah, let us know in the chat too which 9 songs are you taking. I'm taking The Message. Street Dreams is out. I Gave You Power stays. What were you gonna say?
No. Go ahead. I'm going.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Watch Them Niggas is out. I'm sorry. Take It in Blood stays. The Setup stays. Suspect. For some reason, I like that one. That's 5. Okay. Shootout stays. That's 6. Affirmative Action stays. Live Nigga Rap stays. If I Ruled the World and Silent Murder, that's what I got. Those are my 10. So we got The Message. I Gave You Power.
We're doing 9.
Oh, we're doing 9. Well, shit. Huh. Suspect's gone then. We're doing 9. I apologize. I'm thinking 10 tracks on Illmatic. Forgot the intro. All right, so 9 tracks. So I got The Message.
First of all, you're bugging because you don't have shootouts.
No, I said shootouts.
You said shootouts?
Yeah. I specifically said that. That's one of my favorites. The Message, I Gave You Power, Take It in Blood, The Setup, Shootouts, Affirmative Action, Live Nigga Rap, If I Ruled the World, Silent Murder.
Mine's a little different than yours, but not.
Go for it.
We're 9. We're picking the best 9.
Best 9.
I got 8 for sure, and I'm gonna have to pick one of the singles to be the last song. So I got The Message, I Gave You Power, Take It in Blood, The Setup, Live Nigga Rap, Shootouts, Affirmative Action, Silent Murder. And then I would have to say I'm gonna take If I Rule the World because it's a bigger song.
Mm-hmm.
Than Street Dreams, and I think a better song overall. It's just hard to beat, Lauren on a hook with a Curtis Blow inspired song and Nas on the vocals.
And I'm gonna be perfectly clear. I'm not a huge fan of If I Ruled the World, but it's a good song.
It is. It's a well put together song more than anything else. I think it was one of those records where they're talking about taking him in a different direction. I think that song is more of what they had in mind. It's just the execution is not there on those other records like that where they tried to do that, like Black Girl Lost and Watch Them Niggas.
I love the theme of If I Ruled the World. I think that's creative. I think it fit him. I think it fit Lauren. I think putting Lauren on that hook, it made sense. And he is snapping on there. Like he really is.
He's snapping on the whole album.
On the whole album. No breaks. Even a song like Street Dreams that you don't like that, I like Street Dreams. He's killing it. He really killed the remix. Can I put the remix on there? I don't know.
Hold on. I had some different perspective about it too, because I was riding with somebody the other day, and they actually brought up how It Was Written came on and Street Dreams came on, and it's like it had them nodding their heads. So and he's like, I miss rap like that, Coop. He was like, he's like, that nigga's spitting on there, but it's still you can still ride and vibe to it. And I was like, damn. I was like, I didn't even like Street Dreams when it came out.
Yeah. Look, I was playing Street Dreams this morning, and I just found myself rapping to every word. He was going in.
History. So yeah. That's what I mean. It's like, so here's probably my take on it. When it came out, I probably thought it was a 4.5, but it's one of those things like with Wu-Tang Forever over the course of time. When I go back and listen to it now, I'm like, man, this guy's phenomenal.
Now let me ask you this.
Because even the songs that I didn't think were great, are greater than I thought, and that's what kind of makes it a five to me. It's like, no, I still don't love Black Girl Lost. I still don't love Street Dreams. But when I listen to it compared to what I listen to now and what we have to review more often than not, it's like, oh no, give me that, and give me that not just because he's a better MC.
Yeah.
The songs are literally better.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Obviously, when we review things when they come out, we have a certain perspective on it. And in Nas's case, we had Illmatic to look at, which obviously was a looming shadow over that album. But does the fact that we didn't get, how do I say this respectfully? Nas didn't get that much greater after it was written, does that elevate the album too? When we look at everything he made after it, and it's like, well, you know what? That's some of his best material. Does that help
No,
elevate it too?
I mean, Mike, if you were telling me what his, you know, what 30 best songs were, probably 15 of them are probably coming off these two projects.
Well, let me ask you this too, because this is the debate I think, and I think this debate's changed over the years. Is It Was Written better than Stillmatic? Because I feel like when Stillmatic came out, it was understood that Stillmatic was better, but I think that's changed.
Um, ooh, I mean, that's okay. So here's what I'm gonna tell you is that Stillmatic is Nas's like what I like to say like truly like great, brilliant lyrical performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like brilliant lyrical performance, not dope, not good, but brilliant lyrical performance.
Yes.
And then he's still breathtaking on there, where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, like he might be the best guy that I've ever heard, where he has moments that make you think that and feel that, and it's verified. And I told you this, Mike. I think the first 10 songs that are on Stillmatic are literally the best thing. Like if we're just talking in sequence in terms of material he put out, oh, that's his best stretch of songs
I know
since
where you're about
Stillmatic.
to go.
It's that damn Braveheart party,
I
Mike.
knew you were about to go there. Yeah. Okay. So
Braveheart.
Braveheart Party takes it out of the It Was Written conversation. I think that's
It
fair.
does because for whatever you want to say production wise about it was written, like the worst song, if you're talking about the worst song on it was written being something like Watch Them Niggas or Black Girl Lost
Hmm.
or Nas Is Coming produced by Dr. Dre as opposed to Braveheart Party, well there you had your answer.
No, you're right. And that's
You
fair.
don't have the answer at the top, you have it at the bottom. So if you want to talk about the first 10 songs on Stillmatic, oh, the first 10 songs on Stillmatic are better than the first 10 songs on It Was Written. Let's talk about those other three or
But
four songs.
even on top of that, though, I think the high notes on It Was Written are better than the highest notes on Stillmatic, too.
Very, very comparable because what I would submit to you, Mike, is that at the back end of Stillmatic, I think the thing that holds up the back end of Stillmatic, like after the Fly Ice with AZ, is Poison, Mike. The What Goes Around
Oh,
Comes Around.
definitely. Definitely.
Oh, that's one of his best lyrical performances on the mic ever.
Again, that's him taking it there. That's the Nas I like.
That's that's what I'm talking about. That guy, can't nobody touch that guy. That's what I'm talking about when I say brilliant performance. It's like, oh no, you can't do that.
When
Can't
you
do
were
that.
talking about the storytelling and just the lyrical density of I Gave You Power, I thought about Rewind too, because I felt like that when I heard Rewind. It's like, yo, this is just too much. It's
So
impressive.
actually,
It's one of the
so
most
actually,
impressive, and maybe not theme wise, because obviously it came out around the time of Momentum. So, it is what it is. He
no,
was
it was
clearly
inspired by
influenced by the
you said it.
movie.
He was inspired by it.
No,
You
no,
said that.
and that's fine. Yeah, he was inspired by it. But I'm just saying, the execution of it is impressive as fuck. And I think a lot of
So
people get caught up in the creativity, like, oh, he didn't do that first. He got that from blah, blah, blah. Who cares about that? The
so
execution of that shit,
So if we want
nuts.
to talk about execution of a story in the history of hip hop, that's the toughest degree of difficulty ever. He literally
Ever.
told the story backwards and pulled it off. And so that's what I mean about those brilliant and breathtaking moments on those first 10 songs. Oh, it's comparable to It Was Written because if you think I Gave You Power is better lyrically, well, the execution and degree of difficulty isn't as tough as Rewind. So we have a valid conversation. If you tell me that something like The Message is better than, I guess, what would be the record on there? The Message is better than what? You're the Man? Well, not necessarily,
Whew,
Mike.
that's tough.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the
That's
Message is not
tough.
necessarily better than You're the Man. That's
That's
what I mean.
tough.
And so it's
I gotta
comparable.
think
And
about
so,
that. He's
right,
lyrically better on the Message, but the overall song of "You're the Man" is better, I
Mike,
think.
don't say overall better lyrically. I told you, Mike, you talking about I saw dead birds flying through a broken sky. Who that? What? Who think like that?
Yo, real quick, we got some side debates over here in the chat, and
Oh,
it sounds like it started off with somebody saying that it was written is better than the Blueprint, and now we're talking about it was written. I'm sorry, Stillmatic and the Blueprint. Put those albums. I know Jay ends up in these Nas conversations all the time. Put those
right.
three albums in order from greatest to least. What we looking at? Uh, Blueprint. It was written Stillmatic.
I mean,
That's what I got.
The Blueprint is the best produced album, executive production, and beat wise of the three. So let me state that. But lyrically, it was written in Stillmatic or like clearly superior on a lyrical level and
Mm-hmm.
on a content level. And so valid conversations. The Blueprint has a classic feel that it was written in Stillmatic doesn't have, but I think it was written in Stillmatic have more classic songs,
Hmm. You
right?
know, I disagree with you on that part, but what I will agree with you
No,
on,
if we're talking classic songs, not great songs, classic
you
songs.
don't know is a classic.
No, Mike. What I'm saying is that on the Blueprint, I only think there's about 5 songs, maybe 6 that are classic, Mike.
Song
He's
Cry?
great. No. All the songs are great, Mike. Like,
Hmm.
there's only a couple songs that are just good or okay. Most of the songs are great. I say classic, Mike.
I
It was
got,
written and Stillmatic have more classic songs on there to me. As in like the Stillmatic intro, Ether, You're the Man, Rewind, The Flyest, Destroying. Those are all classic records, Mike.
I
The
don't know,
Blueprint doesn't
man.
have
I
as many
disagree
classic.
with that. But what I
Hold
will
on.
agree with is,
Hold on. What'd you say? Back up. Back
I
up. Back
disagree.
up.
I disagree with that.
I mean, Mike, of the first 10 songs that are on Stillmatic, the only one of those records that I don't think are classics is Got Yourself a Gun and Smoking. The rest of those records are classics, Mike. One Mike, we didn't even bring
I
up
think
One
that
Mike.
I think they're quality records. I don't think they're classics. I don't think that.
I mean, to most people, those are
I
classic
think
records.
the biggest song on Stillmatic is the one about the guy that we're talking about.
No, that's not, Mike, that's the thing. That's not even one of necessarily the 5 best songs on that album if you actually like
I
listen to
agree
that
with
album.
that too. I don't think it's one of the five best songs, but when you talk about Heart of the City, you talk about,
One,
You
You
Don't
Don't
Know,
Know. Two.
Izzo, Never
Izzo's
Change.
not a classic. Hold on. Izzo's not a classic.
Izzo's a classic. Come on, whether you like it or not,
Yes.
Izzo's a classic.
Mike,
Come on,
Mike,
man. Izzo's a
don't
classic.
don't let me be
That's
disrespectful.
Kanye's
Mike,
breakthrough. Come
Mike,
on
Mike,
now. That song's
Mike,
gonna go down in history, man. That's Kanye's breakthrough. It is. You remember when Izzo dropped at the first annual BET Awards and everybody came on stage when he debuted
Mike,
that joint?
Mike. And that shit was corny then, and that shit corny now, Mike. It's one
So
of the
you don't
worst
like
songs
the
out
happy
there.
shit. That's what that is.
Mike, that song is not a classic. That's what I mean.
He
Okay, so if
brought
you
he
want to
brought
tell me,
Michael
Mike, if
Jackson
you want
on
to tell me,
stage and
Mike, if
did
you
it.
want to tell me, Mike, if you want to tell me that that's a great record, like that's fine if you want to tell me that, but that's not a classic. No.
I will tell you why Izzo is a classic. All right, Ric Flair says Izzo is a classic, and we had somebody else up here. Andre Shashir said Izzo isn't a classic. I will tell you this:
It's
Izzo is
not.
attached to classic moments. He brought Michael Jackson out a Hot 97 at Summer Jam
Mike,
to
sing the hook right
Izzo
now. Sing the hook right now. Tell me it's a classic.
for Shizzle. My Nizzle used to dribble down in VA. But you know what? That verse where he was like, I do this for my culture. Let him know what a nigga look like when a nigga rent a roaster. Show him how to move in a room full of vultures. Industry shady, you need to be taken over. Record owners hate me, I'm raising the status quo up. I'm overcharging niggas for what they did to the Cold Crush. Pay us like you, oh, pay us what you owe us for all the years that you hold us. We could talk when money talks, so talk more, but come on, man. That's
Yeah.
Jay talking his shit. That's that.
And hold on. And how has he really been in business while he was saying that on record?
Hey, man, it sounds good.
Hey, it sounds good.
It sounds good. It sounds fly.
Yeah,
No,
it
I
sounds
think
cool, but it don't
Izzo's a
sound
classic.
classic though. It don't sound classic though.
Girls,
Izzo's not
girls, girls is not a
girls,
classic.
girls is better than Izzo, Mike.
It might be, but I don't think it's classic like Izzo is. Izzo opened up the blueprint, like everything that was around the blueprint, the buzz, the Kanye buzz, everything was based on Izzo.
It doesn't make it a classic, Mike. Do you think? I mean, Mike, if that's the classic, if that's the case, Mike, Hate Me Now is a classic.
So, what songs were you saying on Stillmatic were classic again?
The intro is a classic, Mike. That's probably his best intro ever. Like people have that, people have "Blood of a Slave, Heart of a King" like tattooed on them, Mike. About that. That's what I'm saying. Like that shit is like tattooed on people.
So that's a classic, and Izzo's not a classic.
Mike, do you think you really, Mike? Do you, in your right mind, think the Izzo's better than the Stillmatic intro? Like, what are you doing?
I'm not saying it's, but you know what? I might be saying that. We're getting off course here.
We are. Can we just go somewhere else? Can we go back to what was written to go to the title review? This is ridiculous.
Well, I mean, people are saying all kind of things over here. You know what, man? Since we're talking about Nas, we're gonna go to that Tyler. I know people in here have heard Dice Game, which was recorded in '93. It was supposed to be on Illmatic, and Nas went out there and acquired Freddie Gibbs, Corday, and Hit Boy to remake Dice Game. I don't know. Listen, man, I don't know how I feel about people going back and redoing records anyway. That never really turns out that great. But what I didn't like about this remake, I like Dice Game first of all, the original one. What I didn't like is the fact that for whatever reason, Nas has Hit Boy redoing the beat when Easy Mo B did the original track. And I, for the life of me, I do not understand how Nas gets certain producers and just let's run. Like the great producers are right here in your face. You won't work with Premier, and now we find out that Easy Mo B did Dice Game. You won't even let Easy Mo B redo his own track, or somebody won't. I'm not saying this is Nas, but it's just wild to me. But in short, the new version of Dice Game to me is trash. I hope I never hear it again. I'm only gonna listen to the original. I only acknowledge the '93 Easy Mo B Dice Game, and I say that respectfully.
The first one wasn't that good, in my opinion, either. If you actually look at the material that he made around the time, I found it not to be up to par and not to be comparable. It definitely shouldn't have been on Illmatic. I share similar sentiments about this version. I don't like.
You didn't like the verse though? I never knock a brother. I'm anti-jail for real. Smooth criminal still locked in the human flesh shield. I see me as Hasi Selassie in my kingdom, sipping Aspi Spumanti. Come on, man.
But no, it just didn't. It just didn't hit me.
Was it the beat?
It should have been on Illmatic. How about this, Mike? Do you think it should have deserved to be on Illmatic?
I think it's better than One Time for Your Mind. Yes, by far, it's better than One Time for Your Mind.
Maybe in a vacuum, but maybe not during the course of an album run.
Now, I will say this. I think what really hurt Dice Game, the original one, is the fact that it was incomplete. And he attempted to complete it with this new one, and it didn't work. And, and it's one of those things where I think the Beastie Boys said this. There's a reason why songs are unreleased.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, for me, it sounds like, how about this, Mike? I'm not saying lyrically he's not nice on there and he's not spitting. It's like '93 Nas, so, it's high quality lyricism. But just because he's spitting doesn't mean that the track hit. Don't mean that shit slap.
Robert Stewart said One Time for Your Mind had better energy than Dice Game's original.
It does, Mike. It feels like he was more into. How about this? Even though he's a better MC and lyricist on Dice Game, he sounds more into the flow of what's happening on One Time for Your Mind. That's what I mean. It fits more into the format of the album and the vibe. And I think of all the songs that they probably had to choose from that had kind of a laid-back vibe, One Time for Your Mind was the best one of those. It was the most complete one of those.
Donovan Bennett says, blame it, I'm sorry. Says, Mike, what you got against One Time for Your Mind, LOL? I mean, I think we all can agree One Time for Your Mind is the weakest song on Illmatic, right?
It's clear. It's. I mean, because it's the only song on there that's not a 10, Mike. Pretty much.
What's the second weakest song on Illmatic?
Mike, I mean,
I
I,
don't know. Who
I
knows?
would, I would
You know what? I'm
probably
gonna say halftime because it's
I
old.
would say halftime.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
would say halftime.
And you know, and that's only because halftime was just recorded so early.
And yeah, but Mike, that's what I mean when you spit in the way that that's what I'm.
And after
That's
that,
just
it just
the
gets
song on the
blurry.
album. But here's the thing about Illmatic, Mike. How about this? Here is the thing about Illmatic, and then we can get to Tyler. After One Time for Your Mind and Halftime, it's a whole conversation about what the best song is. That's like all-time classic type of stuff. Because if you were to tell me any one of those other songs was the best song on Illmatic, I wouldn't argue with you. Oh, New York State of Mind, the best song. Okay, Life's a Bitch, the best song. Okay, The World Is Yours, Memory Lane, One Love, Represent.
You know what? I think I'm gonna say that we're gonna go backwards. I guess the third weakest song is actually one of my favorite songs on there, and that's "Represent."
Mike, a lot of people swear by Represent and think it's the hardest shit and the best shit on Illmatic.
It's
That's
because
what I'm
he's
saying
spitting.
about how great that album is.
No, I love that record. You know what I'm saying? I love that before the BDB conflict with MC Shan around the time of Shantae, this the real Roxanne. Mark Hedberg says life's a bitch.
Love committing sins and my friend scale crack. This
This
nigga
one.
raps with a razor, keep it under my tongue.
School dropout.
Never let the shit from day one.
Life ain't shit but stress, fake niggas, and crab cuts. I love that record. But I do think that beat, especially it being a premiere, produced track, I think that beat is one of the weaker beats on the album. And that's where I guess that, for me, that's where I would say it's the third weakest song. Man, we got people saying Life's a Bitch and Memory Lane. Okay, they talking about favorites, I guess. But
Mike, I would lean on Memory Lane. Like the younger me thought Memory Lane was the best song on Illmatic, and the older me has kind of like remained consistent with that thought.
Yeah.
I think it sums up what separate Nas from everybody else who's great as an MC. Everybody else has to be way more intense and energetic to get their point across in a classic way. And I think Memory Lane is indicative of something that he does that people really, really can't do. Rakim and Snoop are the only people that really come to mind offhand that can just give you that smooth, quiet shit. And it's still like classic.
John says New York State of Mind is the best song on Illmatic. I mean, again, I can't refute that either. I personally think the best song on Illmatic is "The World Is Yours."
That's what I mean, Mike. You can argue about we could literally do this for hours. I've done it before.
But I think the best performance, it's probably Memory Lane.
Okay, I see what you're saying when you talk about the performance on Memory Lane as opposed to the song on The World Is Yours.
Yeah.
Like, you want to know what New York State of Mind is? New York State of Mind, that's Nasty Nas. That's the guy everybody fell in love with. And so, like, to hear the guy everybody fell in love with on his first record, on his first album, execute to that level is like, it's breathtaking. Because it's like, oh no, he's as good as we thought he was.
Oh yeah, he delivered. He over delivered. It ain't hard to tell is out there too, man. It's once you get past, I guess the 2 to 3 bottom songs on the album, really just the 2 bottom songs on the album. Everything else is just debatable.
Breathtaking, yeah, breathtaking.
But let's kind of move forward. How many people in the chat heard that new Tyler the Creator album? Everybody's talking about it, and we wanted to give it about a week to actually digest on it. And Coop, you wrote a review on it, a very favorable review as well.
I was about to say, part of the reason I think why we sat on it is because how about this? Let's go all the way back to it.
Mm-hmm.
You told me that Tyler, you hit me up about noon, not this Friday, but last Friday, and was like, I think Tyler just made the album of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to go listen to it to make sure that I'm not tripping.
Because I do be tripping sometimes.
And when you sent me that message, I'm like, okay, Mike don't send me no messages like that too often. So I'm like, I'm about to go to the barber shop. I'm like, hold on, like, wait. And I mean, Mike, I'm going to go ahead and say this. It's like you say, everybody know I don't like that happy shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, Mike, by the time I got to the barber shop, I was on track 4, and I was like, I think I wanted to text you. I was like, nah, you're not tripping.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not tripping. It was impressive. He was doing a lot of things that are impressive. So like we can start like wherever you want about how to unpack that.
Well, John says something really interesting. He says that I heard it before, but part one has more replay value in my opinion. Donovan said it's all right, but I've been banging that new evidence. All right, I've heard people say they like the back half, and I've heard people say they like the front half. I think the front half is more hip hop. I guess you would say I don't want to say boom bap or anything like that, but just very hardcore hip hop Griselda influence, where the back half is more, I guess you could say, Neptune ish influence.
That's fair.
Right?
That's
So
fair assessment. Yeah.
you know, and I guess in a mission to please everyone, sometimes you don't please half. You know what I mean? But if there was anything I had to say that was, you know, I guess indifferent about the album, just maybe that kind of sequencing. But I think even he did quality work on both ends, and I think it's had more replay value than everything else that I've heard this year. But the Sky Zoo is the other one. I know we were saying Sky Zoo is in the running for album of the year, so I was kind of listening to that album back to back with Sky Zoo. I think conceptually, Sky Zoo put together a great effort. Um,
Yes.
and you know the production is there, but I
Yes.
think where Tyler gets points is because it just style points more so, right? Like
Right.
originality points and standout song points.
I mean, Mike, let's just call it what it is. Like, I don't care, like, necessarily, like, okay, so Tyler, the creator, in terms of what I typically listen to, he's not per se my thing.
Right.
But you can't deny when some shit slaps. That's what I'm saying. Like, dope shit comes from everywhere, and you have to be receptive to it when you hear it. And so, I mean, my immediately thoughts of this was like, these are the types of albums that make me a fan of somebody who I already know but who I don't follow heavy. And so that's what he just did with this project. He took somebody like me that's not a follower of his, and now like I'm officially checking for him about this project. It's one of those kind of projects where it's like, oh no, 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 oh you didn't know I was here. You know, I
Yeah,
can do it
and
like
you know
that.
what? The other part of it is too to kind of piggyback off of that is the fact that he produced all of this, and you know Igor was impressive. I mean, he produced all of Flower Boy too, but Igor was impressive to me on the production, and I really started paying attention to his level of production. But it was still on some synthesized keyboard type of theme, right? But with this one, he kind of did it all. And now I'm thinking like, why isn't Tyler producing for Benny the Butcher or something? You know? Um,
So that's what I meant when I said there was a lot to unpack because there are a lot of things about this album that are great that I don't think people are noticing. So let's go to one of those things right quick since we're on production. This album isn't just well produced production and beat wise,
right.
but song sequence, structure, engineering, sound quality, like all the executive production things are done well. I told you, like, having drama on here is dope. That's one of those things that kind of draws people like me. I'm like, the fuck is drama doing on here? Drama's there to give it. It's like I wrote in my review. Drama's there to give it some grit, to throw it in the mud. Like he know what he doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's an executive production move where he sees himself clearly as an artist and is like, no, my shit slaps. What I gotta get you dudes who don't listen to me to understand.
Right, right. And I think that did pull a lot of people in as well. You
Yeah,
know,
that's Mike. I told you that's one of those. Mike, that's the type that's a West Side Gun type of move, like on the executive production side, where it's like, oh, you're thinking, like you see things clearly, and you're making moves about it.
well, you know, I see people mentioning Pray for Haiti, right? And I also,
We're
when
gonna have to
we
talk about Pray
posted
for
the,
Haiti. We might have to do a short on Pray for Haiti. I
yep,
heard Pray for Haiti. I finally listened to Pray for Haiti.
Pray for Haiti's dope.
It is.
But the other album that a lot of people were mentioning when we put up the review that you wrote was J. Cole's album. Now, do you think J. Cole's album legitimately deserves album of the year conversation because nobody in this chat even mentioned that album. Where do you think that album stands next to that Tyler album? Call me if you're lost. I mean, what would you say? What reasons would you give for saying that Tyler's album is over J. Cole's album?
Everything about it except for lyrically.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah. Replay value is one of those that I would say. I mean, I just don't. I don't think that J. Cole's cooked up anything. Go ahead.
So this is what I mean when I said he did a lot of things well, and why I gave this album such a highly rated rating. Like, one, the executive production and overall production. Oh, that shit is supreme. Because executive production is doing things like pulling in a DJ drama to literally like narrate your project to get a whole nother level of audience that maybe knows you. Like I'm gonna tell you how I really know Tyler the Creator. It's like I always knew who he was, but it wasn't until he did Trouble on My Mind with Pusha T that I actually ever really listened.
I love that record.
No, it's a great record.
I actually like that song and the that Goblin song with the gang.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Goons and Goblins.
Both of those are bangers. They do get work together.
Yeah, Trouble on My Mind is one of the dopest Neptune beats of that time period. Like, that shit is strong.
Yeah. Like of like a 7-8 year period, that would probably be one of the 5 best tracks.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So he did a lot of things so very well on here that I don't think people notice about albums anymore. Very similar to what Westside Gunn did with Pray for Paris. So it's like you go to little things. It's like, Mike, look at the album cover. It's a dope album cover with a dope feel that kind of lets you know where the project's going and who he is. You can look at it and it's like, oh, that's not telling me enough, really. Well, that's kind of who he is. You know what I'm saying? He's kind of aloof and mysterious like that. It fits with the album title. Mike, what's the name of the album? Call Me If You Get Lost. That's a dope-ass album title, Mike. Like, he's thinking about it. And so, it's just well put together on the executive production side. I mean, Mike, if we want to get into the tracks, I mean, Mike, the first 9 tracks to me, Mike, I mean, them shit slapped.
Yo, I just seen something in the chat that just set me off for a second. It said, Pray for Hades better than Pray for Paris. Listen, I was about to start talking about Pray for Paris because there are elements of this album that kind of remind me of that, like you were just saying. Like, just the cohesiveness, and you could tell that this album was highly inspired by Pray for Paris. But as far as Pray for Haiti being better than Pray for Paris, that is crazy. That is insane. There's no George Bondo on there. It's not.
Like, there's not even a hero step on there. Like, what are we doing?
No, it's not. Now, okay, somebody said lyrically they agree. See, again, that's not what see, that's the thing about Westside Gunn. I think that's why he doesn't get the props that he deserves, because he's just not a lyricist like some of his peers. But when you talk about putting records together, nobody right now is really fucking with Westside. I mean, that's just the truth.
Mike, there's not one thing off the Chronic that deserves to be Rhyme of the Year, and it's one of the 10 greatest rap albums of all time. It doesn't have to be lyrically it doesn't have to be that lyrical miracle rapping ass rap.
And y'all love Pray for Haiti because Westside Gunn is the executive producer of it. I mean, let's just be real. And that's where the influence that, Tyler came from. Because Westside is out here, what is it?
In the culture.
Yeah, I mean, he's executive produced from King to God. Like, come on, man. Like, he's somewhere else.
I told you, Mike. Yeah.
I mean, it's a reason why he set off that Peter Rosenberg album, which we haven't talked about really, because it's tough to talk about a collaboration album like that. But if you want to talk about that album too, I feel like Griselda has influenced that Peter Rosenberg album as well. That's why Westside started it off. Yeah, some more notes for Tyler's album.
No, I mean, I'm just thinking of all the albums that are better than J. Cole's album, because I wonder why people keep doing this.
You think Conway's album is better than J. Cole's album?
Yeah, they're comparable, but Conway's is still better because the highlights are better. It's like you want to know, hey Mike. So I'm gonna tell you something that I realized today is that like I know people love Reasonable Doubt. I listened to Ready to Die today for the first time in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to Die is better than Reasonable Doubt, and it's not because Big is a better MC than Jay, because Jay is actually a better MC on Reasonable Doubt than Big is on Ready to Die. But man, Big delivers some really, really epic moments on Ready to Die.
Definitely. So you dig
delivers,
in.
Mike. That's what I mean when I'm talking about him being Mike Jordan. It's like
He could do everything.
Like when it's time to deliver, that guy delivers. Like Mike, I was listening to the actual record Ready to Die, and I was thinking like, this isn't one of the 5 best songs on this album. That's ridiculous.
Biggie could channel his inner Scarface, and not a lot of people can do that. There's like,
I want people to hear this again. I listened to the song Ready to Die today. That song is brilliant. It's a classic. It's not even one of the 5 best songs on that album. It's not better than Everyday Struggle. It's not better than Warning. It's not better than Gimme the Loot. It's not better than the What? What? It's not better than Unbelievable.
No, Big was incredible, man. What I was gonna say, man, Ron Bay hit me. I want to say on the 25th anniversary of, I hate to call him out on that, of Reasonable Doubt, and he asked me, "Is Reasonable Doubt overrated?"
Mike, if you want to talk about something, it's like production-wise, Reasonable Doubt is not, like, how about this, Mike? What's the beat on Reasonable? What's the best beat on Reasonable Doubt?
I think The Evils is probably the best beat on Reasonable Doubt. Either that or Can I Live?
Those are the 2 beats that I thought of too, Mike. So those beats, like
I also like Politics as Usual, and maybe Can't Knock the Hustle too. I don't know.
Politics as Usual is my favorite record on Reasonable Doubt. I don't think beat-wise it's a great beat. So I think if you wanted to say Reasonable Doubt was overrated production-wise, the same way it was written might be, seeing how they came out, a week or 2 apart, since we had a 96 conversation with it.
Right.
Like, both of those albums for the time, they were a little too sleek, but that's because of what Big had done.
Big had fucked the game up. Niggas was confused.
People was confused. That's what I mean. So you had Nas stepping into a space that, like, literally a year ago he had never had to step in, and Jay had to kind of walk in the game that way and had to switch his whole style up.
Jay was still trying to find out what approach he wanted to take on the game. He was still dabbling between his old style and what Sauce Money had brought to the table with him and what was next.
So here's what I mean, even with the influences, like, Reasonable Doubt is just like Reasonable Doubt has a lot of what I like to call triples on. They're classic records, but they're triples. They're not necessarily home runs. Like Feeling It is a classic record, but it's not. Mike, that's what I'm saying. It's not Give Me the Loot.
What do you think about Bring It On? People are mentioning Bring It On in the chat.
Ooh, Bring It On might be. You know what? If you're talking beat wise, how about this? Bring It
That's
On is
tough.
probably. Hold on, Bring It On, and that's another Primo track. The best 2 tracks on there are Primo tracks to me. That's The Evils and Bring It On. If we're talking about a beat MCs want to rhyme to, Bring It On is probably the track. That's the track from that album that other cats would want to jump on and rhyme on, I would say. And that's what I mean production wise. It's not as great sometimes as people like may think.
Like want to remember. I think that the magic behind Reasonable Doubt is who it is, right? And I even wrote that article about, Reasonable Doubt being the most ambitious album of all time, and that's mostly because of who he is and what he's become, and everything that he said he was gonna do on Reasonable Doubt, he did it. And
so how about this? If we're talking about production highlights, even though Volume 1 isn't as consistent and is nowhere near as good, there's more production highlights on Volume 1 than there are on Reasonable Doubt. Like 1,000,001 Questions and Rhyme No More is better than every beat on Reasonable Doubt.
You're right. 1,000,001 is better than every beat on that. Primo again. And that's you know what, and I know
it's a better beat than almost everything on there. Like, yeah, some of the beats on Volume 1 are better than almost everything on Reasonable Doubt.
I know Jay gets a pass in not working with Premier anymore because he's always found great producers to work with, so we don't really harp on that like we do with Nas. And he doesn't have the classics with Primo like Nas does. I guess it's debatable, but he needs to work with Premier again too.
No, let's speak to that right quick. Maybe part of the reason why he doesn't work with Preem, though, is because his classics with Preem aren't kind of revered the way the classics with Nas and Big are. That could be an ego thing, because when people talk about like the Big and Nas records with Cream, it's like, oh, and then you get to the J records, and it's like, and when you listen to them, it's like they're almost there, but I mean, what's the best pairing? Like, what's the best pairing that Primo and Jay did? Is it the
A
Eagles
Million
or
and
is it
One, or
It's a Million and
the
One, right?
Evils, or A Million and One. Between those
Okay,
two,
so like, is either one of those better than like New York State of Mind or Kicking the Door? And it's like, well,
I think they're better than Kicking the Door. Yes, to me, I think that Primo and Jay's collaborations might be over Primo and Biggie's collaboration.
Mike,
But I
that
know
is
you disagree with that because you're a big Ten Crack Commandments fan.
absurd, Mike. What are you doing? No, no.
Somebody
Hold on,
mentions
hold on.
Imaginary Player. I'm like,
No, Mike, unbelievable Kicking the Door and 10 Crack Commandments, Mike.
I'll
Like, what are
put
you
look,
doing?
I'll put A Million and One, the Evils, and shit. Bring It On with those.
That's not. It's just. That's what I'm saying. Like, those are classics. It's not as classic. It's not. It don't hit you the same. You don't love those records the way you love those big Primo records. Like, come on, Mike. Like,
Somebody mentioned Imaginary Player, man, and it's interesting because
Imaginary Player might be my favorite J song.
I love hearing Jay rhyme over Angela Winbush samples. It's wild. Like,
I love the dough.
yeah, I love like it's a whole
Mike,
like to me that's the Jigga sound before he kind of took Big's lane.
hey, Mike. I thought he rapped Big to a Draw on I Love the Dough. That's how dope I thought he was on that performance. I thought he rapped Big to a Draw on I Love the Dough.
Anthony AG says you guys are tripping. You comparing Volume 1 to Reasonable Doubt. That's him. I didn't do that. Reasonable
No,
Doubt
I said
is
beat
leaps
wise.
and bounds.
I said beat wise. So fans need to pay attention. I'm talking about some of the tracks, which are better.
Lyrically though, and I'll always say Reasonable Doubt's Jay's best album because lyrically he was just somewhere else. He was just rap different, and he'll never rap like that again. He's even said that.
It's the depth of the subject matter, Mike. I'm gonna say this again. Nobody ever rapped about the game like that. Like tracks like The Evils and Can I Live and Politics as Usual, they really didn't exist before Jay. You didn't hear anybody talk in depth like that.
And the vocabulary was a little different too.
The draws from Dropping, the law from Watching. I hate them.
Yeah, man. Like that right there is really the Griselda blueprint. No pun intended. And speaking of the blueprint, I know they were talking about it earlier. I didn't get to this point. My problems with the blueprint are Jigga Jigga That Nigga Jigga. Hola Ovito, even though I don't think it's a bad song, it just shouldn't be on that album. And Renegade. Those are my three problems with that album. And I don't care what anybody says. Eminem did his thing on Renegade, but the beat is trash, man. And we can't sit here and say that we're listening. Let's just say you're in a session. You're an artist, right? You've been in the studio as an MC. You listening to the Heart of the City beat. You listening to the You Don't Know beat. And then the Renegade beat comes on. There's levels here. This doesn't fit on this project. Doesn't. Now, as far as the Jigga Jigga That Nigga Jigga, I kind of get that. That's what the sound was at the time. He was coming off the Dynasty. That song should have been on the Dynasty. I feel like maybe he had a album deal with Trackmasters where they had to be on the next project or something, and they put it on there. And you know the thing with him and Timbaland, so they kind of threw that on there too. But Renegade shouldn't have been on there.
So, I mean, really, I looked at that more of like a meeting of kind of like Titans of the Time thing. So, obviously, he's not about to do a song with Nas at the time. And so, if you look around at who's just as big at the time, it's what? It's like, what is Nelly, Eminem?
You said it right, though. Jay was trying to get Eminem's fan base. He didn't have, because he's coming, let's keep it real. On Volume 3, you had Big Pimpin', big single. On Dynasty, you had Give It To Me. He didn't have that smash hit on the Blueprint. And so he wanted to get a draw on there that was going to get sales. And who was selling more than Eminem in 2001? Nobody.
Yeah, Mike, that's valid, but we are talking about somebody that was like at the time moving like 5 million, within a relative span of time. So it's not like he was struggling record sales. He was one of the few guys that was moving like multi-platinum units consistently.
Anthony AG says, "Wow, the Renegade beat is trash now. Y'all are tripping."
No,
Donovan,
don't say y'all tripping. No. Now I'm gonna point the finger at Mike. That's Mike tripping.
I'm gonna read the next comment. Donovan said, "Word, M made that beat on a Casio keyboard." Yes, I agree. That beat is trash. That beat.
Can I tell you where I am? I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't think that the beat is really that dope, but I don't think it's whack either. It's somewhere in the middle. It's one of those what I like to call canvas tracks. It's a track that a rapper that's worth his weight can go take the track and make it a song. And so those guys, like Royce and M made that song great. Jay and M made that song great. It's what great artists do sometimes.
In a vacuum, yes. I wouldn't have had a problem with that record being on the Blueprint 2 if it meshed in or if it was on Volume 3. But with the tracks that we heard on the Blueprint, I can't excuse that level of production. I can't. After hearing You Don't Know, after hearing Heart of the City, after hearing Never Change, after hearing Song Cry, I can't do it. After hearing Mama Loves Me, I can't sit here and act like this is legitimate production. I can't do it.
Hey Mike, you should holler at your boy about that.
He know that shit was trash too. He knows that beat that Eminem did on the Black album was trash too.
Now that beat's trash.
Nas knows that track that Eminem did for him on Godson was trash too.
That beat too is some trash, Mike. You are absolutely right. Those beats are trash. Renegade's not trash. Those beats, that's trash.
I think Eminem was rapping so good on Renegade.
No, those tracks are trash. But Renegade not trash.
I think Eminem was rapping so good on Renegade, it kind of masked that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so people need to stop making it seem okay. So it's like, did he get out rapped by Eminem? Yes, but here's some things that need to be noted about it. One, anybody that knows the history of the track knows that track existed before Jay walked into the studio. They removed Royce's vocals and added that. So Emmett already.
That's karma for Jay.
So right. So I just heard the version with Royce. I'll tell you the version with Royce is better. Royce actually did a better job than Jay did, but that's probably because Royce is probably more comfortable with M's style of beat making, and with being in the studio with him. So that track was kind of mailed into Jay for one. So M also is the creator of the beat. So of course he knows the melodies and the nuances and where to carry the cadence and the flow at. That's why it's one of his most famous verses. It's over his own track. He could get in his pocket in a variety of ways. He made the beat.
Yeah.
So Jay's up against a couple different things. And so when you realize the things that he was actually up against and then actually go listen to him and listen to the performance is dope because what people are missing is that he's doing a lot of his double entendre flow pattern that he's like very well known and recognized for as having one of the greatest deliveries, if not the greatest delivery of all time. That delivery and that double entendre flow over that like subtly nuanced, fast-paced beats is a hard pull off. So
but see,
like you really need to know.
No, you're right.
Like I said, it's like you really kind of got to be a rap nerd and know the details of rap and how hard it is to do certain things in the booth to even understand how difficult it was for him to pull that verse off on that level. So the degree of difficulty and execution is higher than people realize.
Jay allowed himself to get, let's just say, he allowed himself to get outshined, viewed to be outshined, because everything you said was correct, right? This is Eminem's track. He's automatically gonna shine. But Jay allowed that because he wanted him on the album that bad, and this is what happened.
He got murdered on his own shit.
But again, it really the irony of it all is it really wasn't his own shit.
Right. That's
and you know what I'm saying? But that's his fault. He allowed that. He should have been like, look, I got some Kanye beats, man. I need you to get on. And if M would have tried to jump on one of those tracks, he would have sounded horrible.
So Mike, so this is another thing that I'm gonna submit to you that I feel like is different about Nas and about Jay. It's like Nas got classic shit with everybody. It's like Jay kind of needs control sometimes to make his classic shit because when he's at the behest of somebody else, Eminem on Renegade or I don't know Kanye on Watch the Throne, oh the results are not as good.
Nas got a song with Eminem.
I'm just talking in general.
No,
Like
I'm just saying. I wonder why that hasn't happened. I have my theories.
Mike, I mean, Mike, Mike, one of my biggest problems with Godson wasn't only the fact that Nas let Eminem give him that awful beat, which is the worst beat on Godson.
They all let Eminem give them awful beats. Tupac and
Hold
Biggie
on,
got an
hold on.
awful Eminem beat.
But it's like, man, like we couldn't get a great verse to go with the awful beat at least, or a verse somewhere on Godson. Like,
I got a
and I get,
feeling they tried and it probably didn't work out. You know, we never hear the Eminem outtakes. We don't. We don't hear the stuff that he maybe attempted to do. You don't think he ever attempted to rhyme over a Premier track? Premier and Royce are a group. You
I mean,
know?
Mike, it's a succinct possibility
Hmm.
that occurred.
I mean, it just makes sense. But, I mean, who knows? But when we're talking about two great lyricists that clearly have a lot of respect for each other, you're right. How is he not on Carried Across?
No,
So
I mean, it's
you
just,
you took that beat,
right.
like you're not signed to him like Lloyd Banks and 50, where like they had to take his beats. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's no
And he
attachment
actually
there.
gave them some decent stuff. On Fire is cool, even though I think Kwame did that. I'm sorry, I think Kwame did that. But that what was the song? Well, the two songs that were on Get Rich or Die Trying that Eminem did. Patiently Waiting was cool, but I really like the
No,
other
no,
one.
no. Patiently waiting was dope, and so was Don't Push Me.
I like Don't Push Me.
Don't Push Me is
Don't
probably his
Push Me is
best beat,
tight.
right?
I
Don't Push Me is his best beat.
It's between that and the other 50 Cent song that's on the Massacre that I'm gonna na, na, na,
No, that's
mm.
yeah, Mike. Don't Push Me. Like I
Don't
said,
Push Me? Okay.
push me.
Well, some of the stuff that he made for himself too. Um,
Oh yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I guess that's a little bit harder to qualify too.
yeah, yeah, but I think that Eminem, man, if we talk about artists being producers, he's definitely at the bottom of the food chain when it comes to that. Because when you look at what people like Big Crit have done, what people like Tyler the Creator have done, I mean, it dwarfs that. But I do think that there is something to be said about artists, producers that produce for other people. Because to me, when you talk about that, that's the difference between Andre 3000 and CeeLo, right? I think they're both incredible producers and writers. But with Dre, it was more of a thing where he had to be on the record. Like even when he wrote and produced for Gwen Stefani, or when he did Millionaire for Khalees, he had to be on the record to make the record work. With CeeLo, he could do Don't You for the Pussycat Dolls and not really be involved, and it's a record. You know what I mean? Or like what he did with A. Marie. So I think that, and it's kind of like that whole Prince and Babyface thing we talk about. We kind of got to give the person more points that writes for other people other than having to be involved in when they write for other people. You know what I mean? So the same thing
No,
with being a producer.
no, I don't. Clarify.
Okay. I think that Prince is the greatest musician to ever grace this earth. I think that he's an incredible writer, and most of his incredible writings came from himself. I mean, for himself as an artist. But I have to say that Babyface might be the greatest songwriter ever for the amount of different people that he's been able to write for and the output that he was able to get from all of those individuals.
Okay,
And
so
I'll say the same thing as a producer, right? You kind of, especially when we talk about artist producers like a Kanye, right? Like I think that we got to give people props for when they're able to produce for somebody and not really jump on it as an artist to guide them. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. So here's what I would say to you to that. It all depends on what you want out of your format. If you want to talk about just a songwriter, give me Stevie and Prince over Babyface because they can do more songwriting wise. As in, like Babyface doesn't have anything like Sign of the Times, not the album, the song. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Every man died of a big disease with a little name. By chance, his girlfriend came across a needle, and soon she did the same. He doesn't have those types of records that are considered to be all-time great classic records, but have a certain level of depth and songwriting ability to them that show that he is connected to things outside of love per se. I would say most of his stuff exists in a box, Mike, and within that box, he can work with anybody and make anybody great within that box. But he can't make Living for the City or Sign of the Times. Like, no, he can't write those records. So, no, he's really not a better songwriter.
No, but see, no, I think that he's a better songwriter for others. I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying.
Have enough like hit records and love songs that they're in a conversation with him as a writer on that level. They're not in a he's not in a conversation with them as a writer on that level.
I agree with you.
Like there's a song on Controversy, like Ronnie Talked to Russia, where like Prince is doing a literal whole song where he's talking about the nuclear conflict going on.
No, I agree with you 100%. And I think in a vacuum, if we're talking about pen and pad, who's the better songwriter, I would say Prince. But if we're talking about who's the better songwriter for a massive amount of people, it's hard to refute what Babyface has done.
You want to know how great a songwriter Prince is, and like here's a way that you can look at it in terms of this conversation and how I'm going to frame it for you. Most of Babyface's songs that are hits that we know that are classics, he's written for women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Prince wrote one song about being the perspective of a woman that like women remake. You get what I'm saying?
No, I agree.
It's different. Like he only has to write from the perspective of a woman one time for it to be iconic and classic and forever. That's what I mean.
Well, you know what, and to kind of pull this conversation back around, I would love to hear Tyler the Creator produce for other artists because it's different when you're producing for yourself, and it's impressive when you produce for yourself. But I think that next level of that is to be able to produce for another person, right? That's what kind of separates it, and that's when because Eminem was able to carry the Renegade track, and like you said, you wanted him to be on Carry the Cross, just so he could do that.
When I think of Kanye's best tracks, I rarely go think in my mind about the tracks that he's on, and he's got plenty of classic tracks that he's done that it's him rapping on. It's not where I go when I think about his classic beats because I try to think about him a producer, as in what did you produce for other artists?
He's such a great producer. We kind of X out him as an artist when we think about him as a producer. Ric Flair said, "Put Eminem on a Jazzy Faye beat." It could never happen, man. He can't rhyme on anything other than his own beats.
He got jokes. No. He obviously knows you. He's trying to poke at you to get you on rants. We're not doing it. We're not doing it.
Andre Shashir said he produced a song on Pray for Paris. Did he produce the song that they were on?
Who?
He said that Tyler the Creator produced on Pray for Paris. Let's look this up.
Oh yeah. Okay. I could see that.
I mean, that's a great album to say you produced on. So it is what it is. Was it the song he was on?
Well, I mean, at least as far so Mike,
let me look real quick.
Track on the best rap album of the last 2 years, so possibly 3-4 years. Yeah.
Let's see, Camouflage Monk, Alchemist. Okay, he produced Party with Pop Smoke.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that record. Okay. Yeah. I like every record on Pray for Paris though.
Yeah. So he has the album of the year so far. I guess to wrap things up, you gave it a 4.75 out of 5. Do you see anybody possibly making a better album than this one, and what's it gonna take for somebody to overtake Tyler's current effort.
I mean, just real quick, like I said in the review, that you can go up onto our newly updated website on accordingtohiphop.com and read the full review.
Definitely, we'll put the review in the box below too.
Right. I think enough of this album that I do think it's going to take a classic type of effort from one of rap's best or better or brightest artists in order to take this album out of album of the year status. It's the best album that I've heard this year. It hits you on a few different levels. And like I said, as somebody, I mean, and understand I'm saying this is somebody that's not a regular fan of his. It's like I'm not a big follower of his. It's like I've known who Tyler is for a while now. And it's like I check for his records when they drop now. Igor, I mean, Flower Boy and Igor, I was kind of like, oh, okay, like I see what he's doing. Like, you know, but this is, I was like, oh, I'm like, okay, this is the third album. And I'm like, it gets better every time, like, because I think Igor is better than Flower Boy, and I find this to be succinctly better. I find Call Me If You Get Lost to be succinctly better than Igor. And like I said, Igor was a top 5-ish rap album a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And so he's even upped the ante on that. And so it's like, I like where he's trending. I like what he's doing. The production is there. I mean, if you want to say like it's like what I tell people, man, it's like people from our generation got to stop expecting these dudes to be like Nas and Rakim and Black Thought on the mic. You know, this is a well put together project. He's saying some things. There are some content heavy songs. There's some love songs. There's some party songs. There's some misogynistic stuff. There's a little bit of everything on there. That's kind of why I like it. I'm like, oh, he's all over the place, but he put it together well. He made it concise. It feels like a full-length project. It feels like it's longer than an hour in a good way, but then you look at it, it's only 53 minutes. It's impressive.
Yeah, it's very full. Andre Shashir says, God don't make mistakes, will overtake it. You know, I think Pusha T is coming this year. At least that's what they're saying. I don't know if that's still on schedule. We're already in July, and you know, no sign of it.
If I had to call it, based on what I personally think is coming out this year, I'm going to tell you what. First of all, I guess just the fan in me that wants to see him win so bad and sing his praises still thinks that there might be a possibility of a Method Man album somewhere.
I hope so.
And about that, people should beware.
I think that there's going to be a Jay-Z album somewhere. He's been a lot more visible this year than ever. Something's coming. You know,
like Method Man, I don't think the results of that are going to be as great if we hear that. And I'm not saying that to be shady. I just think from what I've been hearing from Method Man, I just feel like I feel like all these dudes that are out now, and Griselda got him like in a zone of like an itch he needs to scratch, and and so Method Man comes to mind. Kendrick comes to mind. And most notably, Conway and Pusha T come to mind. If those 4 guys drop, I would be surprised if any of those 4 albums ends up supplanting this as album of the year.
Yeah.
But I think from what I've heard and from how this year has gone, like this album from Tyler, Call Me If You Get Lost, it's not going to finish any worse than 5th for album of the year. And if it finishes worse than that, we need to be having a conversation about how we've had really, really great back-to-back hip-hop years. Because if this project ends up 5th, that would put it where Busta Rhymes' project fell for us last year.
Yeah.
And I just really think that this is better than Busta's project.
So, it is. And
so if this project ends up being the 5th best project in this year, then what if that's about like this year? Does that mean this year might be a better top-heavy year, a better overall year? I'm just saying it's going to give us a good litmus test of what to look at.
Yeah, well, we're halfway through the year. We're over halfway through the year, and I think that an album like this that everybody's talking about and giving positive praise really invigorates the other artists that are coming as well. So I think that it's just going to go up from here.
If this album is getting critical acclaim, I hope it's getting different critical acclaim for him. Like, he's gotten critically acclaimed before. It's like, even I wrote in the review, he's won a Grammy for Igor, so it's not like he hasn't been recognized and critically acclaimed.
He's getting rap critical acclaim, and I think mostly that's because
this shit slap different.
That's because of the drama thing too, and I think that's why he involved drama, so people wouldn't get it twisted and and accept it a little bit more.
Like them first 7, 8, 9 tracks, Mike. Like he's on some rap shit really most, like in a good way.
Said Knots and Mickey Facts about the drop a new joint too. Shout out to the Mickey Facts. That's what's up. We definitely gonna be checking for that. They're rapping at a high level. Have you been following this whole Mickey Facts, Lupe Fiasco, and Royce the 5'9" thing?
I follow. I feel like I caught the second round and not the first round. How did that start? I feel like I've caught everything from the second round, not the first.
Yeah, it's like they just been going back and forth on some lyrical sparring type stuff.
About what?
About who's about who's nicer, pretty much. I think there needs to be a battle set up. I think Royce and Lupe need to battle. I think that also Lupe is so lyrically skilled. He's so lyrically inclined on such a level that he's not mentioned. And I think certain things just he has to insert himself and let people know like, yo man, I am Lupe Fiasco, y'all know, right?
Okay, so here's the thing with that. First of all, if Royce and Lupe do this, that's Detroit and Chicago. So that's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's big. I'm gonna say this. Lupe is a superior lyricist, and that is saying a lot when you're talking about Royce, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But in the format, hold on, but listen to what I'm saying. Oh, in the format of battle, in one-on-one, certain things matter. Like your charisma, your cadence, your punchline. And Royce, oh, he a whole problem with all of that.
Donovan said R.J. Payne.
And I'm gonna say this: like Royce is one of the few people that rhymes next to Black Thought with ease. He rhymes next to Black Thought with ease. Like, don't
Listen. I think, and you know me, I think Black Thought is next level. I think we talking lyrically. Lupe's there. Lupe's there.
No, but Mike, that's what I'm saying. Lyrically, he is there. I'm saying Royce is there in every which way.
Royce ain't got no mural. I mean, let's just keep it real. Like, mural is something else. Donovan said R.J. Payne.
Mike, mural, dumb it down. Like, no, Mike, mural, dumb it down. No, he's taking it there. That's not about to go in the battle. Like those types of records. Like, how about this, Mike? No. You don't got 3 to 5 hours to sit down and conceptualize and write that, and then another 3 to 5 hours to record it. No. You don't have 10 hours to do this.
You remember what happened with Mos Def, right? And I love Mos Def. I think Mos Def is to me probably the most just pure talented MC ever. And he went out there and was talking on some battle anybody, I don't care who you tell. And Lupe stepped up, and Mos Def said, I don't have time to battle.
Well, you want to know what? Here's the reality of the matter. Here's the reality of the matter. Mos Def was out of practice, and he knew he was out of practice.
But Lupe challenges everybody, and it seems to never go down. They know.
I'm trying to tell you. No, Mike. You talking about Most though? Oh, Royce ain't faded.
I would love to see Royce and Lupe.
Mike, Royce ain't never faded. Royce been consistently putting out material for the last 20 years. He is very much active and nice. But I'm gonna say this again. He raps next to Black Thought with ease.
He's not. He's not on Black Thought's level, but you know, he's been putting together some great projects.
Mike, on that song Father Figure, Mike, Royce actually has the better verse, so he may not be the MC that Black Thought is. But first of all, if we're talking about the MC that Black Thought is, very few people in the history of rap lyrically have ever been that way. Most of those guys are on somebody's Mount Rushmore for their era. I don't know, Rakim, Nas, Cool G Rap. KRS-One, Black Thought's not a normal guy on the mic.
Not at all.
So when you're saying like Royce isn't Black Thought, it's like, well, who the hell is Black Thought on the mic outside of 96 Nas and 88 Rakim?
Donovan says R.J. Payne said him and Ransom are the nicest spitting, and Royce took offense to it. And you know, I think we got a lot of healthy competition right now. You got.
Hold on. R.J. Payne said what?
Said him and Ransom are the nicest spitting, and Royce got offended by that. That's kind of how this started. Yeah.
I mean, first of all, to be honest with you, I would be more excited about Ransom versus Royce. For me personally.
I love how, once again, Lupe's able to insert himself in, like the confidence that Lupe has in his lyrical skill. It's so funny because, first of all, he has that lyrical skill, but whenever he jumps in there, most of the time people back off. But Royce not backing off, and this is getting really entertaining. Did you see the what was the Marshall line? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that.
That's the type of stuff that happens with Lupe.
No, Mike. When you got time to sit right quick and think it and write it, oh no, that's fine. But when you in a room of about, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 people, it's different, Mike.
Well, that's how these battles go down. People
Right.
write their battle
It's
raps.
different. It's different. That Mike, I'm trying to tell you. Like I'm saying this for a reason. Is that like Royce is more active, more battle tested, and the way he is built as an MC overall, he's just lyrically nice enough and does everything else well. That's a problem for Lupe. Walking in.
The only
I don't care how
guys,
lyrically nice you are, like that lyrical, because here's that's a lyrical miracle doesn't usurp like punchlines, and actually Royce is better at punchlines than Lupe is, and that matters more in battle.
Donovan said Lupe called out Royce for spitting album bars and tried to make it sound like a freestyle. And that's what was going on too. Because Lupe pulled up his flex freestyle and was like, this is a freestyle.
Oh.
Yeah. But I would love to see it.
Now.
I would love to see it, man. You know, I would love to see it.
So I mean, that's petty, but next.
I would love to see it though, and you know, and we talked about this before. We have this mixed definition of what an actual freestyle is, and I think it's generational. I think in the generation we grew up in, at some point it got skewed to the fact that freestyles are off the top, when in a previous era, freestyles were written that weren't about anything. And we've gotten back to freestyles are written. Shit, people make songs and just put the name freestyle on the song now. And so I think Lupe just comes from an era where freestyles were off the dome.
That's where I come from.
That's where I come from too. And Lupe's in our age bracket. So I don't know who started that in the 90s. I don't know who started that in the 90s where they changed the definition of a freestyle. But yeah.
I mean, Mike, it's a different level. Like, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, oh, if we just talking about going in and being able to spit live for 2 hours, I mean, I don't think people, like, the degree of difficulty of that is extremely high, Mike.
I think, you know, even, all right, let's look at, like, Canibus and...
The only thing to me that existing in the battle environment and hip-hop for a couple of hours and having literally to come off the top of your dome for a couple of hours, like, really come off the top of your dome, and most of the shit that you see now, even when you're seeing these freestyle battles, like these dudes write all this stuff.
Yeah. The only young cat that was trying to bring that into a wave was Juice WRLD, rest in peace. Like, he would go out there and you could tell he was freestyling for a fucking hour. And I don't care what anybody says, regardless of what's coming out of his mouth, that's impressive. You're sitting there rapping for an hour and 15 minutes. I remember posting that on According to Hip Hop, the whole hour and 15-minute freestyle. Andre Shashir says Rhapsody in the Basement's responsible for that. I don't think so, because it was a little bit before that. I think Rhapsody kind of piggybacked off of that, because I remember Canibus, his freestyles were written, but they were so incredible we didn't care. But I do remember Tigger used to always be.
I cared, and I was contentious about that, because it's like, yeah, but all his freestyles are written.
But I mean, you don't think Black Thought's freestyle on Flex was written? It doesn't matter. It's incredible. I mean, he not spitting from the top. We've heard Black Thought spit from the top.
So I'm gonna tell you something. Black Thought was supposed to release an album called Masterpiece Theater after Things Fall Apart. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
He did an interview in The Source. He talked about how most of these cats, if you were to bring them in the room with me, they really couldn't rhyme with me, like off the top of the dome, about what they see around them, like that desk, that chair, the apple on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was speaking to something in the sense of like, I'm a master craftsman of this, at all levels. That's why it's called masterpiece theater. You're seeing a master craftsman on all levels. Like, as in, I can write it and recite it and spit it and call it freestyle, but no, I can freestyle and tell you about like the clothes that you're wearing and how you're wearing them and how it's making you look and make something witty about it off the top of my head. Like, I can do
Yeah.
all things.
I think it was that crew. I think it was him, Common, Mos Def, Talib. They were ciphering and spitting off the top. I think that was that crew in the late '90s that kind of
Like,
made that a popular thing.
Do you remember the KRS One Common freestyle?
Yeah, it was KRS too. He made it a big deal to come off the top, and it's crazy
So
because he's
the
actually
guy.
from the '80s, and he never gave that definition. Yeah, it's Supernatural and KRS. They make it look easy.
Hold on, but he's the guy, Mike.
He is
Actually,
the guy.
KRS
It's
One is the
KRS.
guy.
It's KRS.
Because I mean, I'm gonna speak from seeing him live once before. Oh no, I've watched him rap for an hour straight and be brilliant with no written material that you know of.
Beanie Siegel would do that too. I remember when Beanie Siegel used to get on stage and go for like 9 minutes.
Yeah, no.
No
Singles
written
like that
shit.
too.
Yeah. Beanie Siegel's definitely underappreciated in this culture, man. And
I told you, Mike, he has all the makings of a top five MC.
his only problem was the fact that he was on a team where he would never get the ball first.
Right.
You
So
know.
how about this? Even he could have at least been Method Man. Like, he's a Method Man level talent.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you talk about in depth, all the things that he can do on a record and all the things he can make you feel, probably even more than so. But unfortunately, all the great production was just gonna go to one guy.
No, doesn't have the voice or delivery. That's why I said that. Like, it's comparable. Can do some things greater. Like he should have at least had a career like Method Man. Like MC wise is what I'm saying.
I see what you're saying. I just think that, kind of like going back into what your comment was with, Babyface, Prince, and Stevie. I think that there's just some things that Beanie Siegel can cover that Method Man just can't. I think stylistically, yeah, when you hear him on the track, Method Man is great. He sounds awesome, great flow, great voice. But if you talk about going in depth, like, not many people can make a Feel It in the Air. I don't think that Method Man, is able to do that. And Method Man is one of my favorite rappers. But I don't think Beanie Siegel can make Bring the Pain either. So,
Very few people can make Feeling in the Air, like Scarface,
Right.
Tupac, Ice Cube. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right.
All right, well, yeah, let's get up out of here, man. Before we get out of here, man, you listen to that G Herbo?
I did. What did you think?
I didn't get a chance to listen to it. It's been a real busy day.
I found it to be more impressive than his last effort. I think he's getting close.
Okay. And did you you didn't get a chance to listen to that Big Boy song?
No, I didn't. I mean, only what you were playing in the background when we were pre-gaming.
I like it. My only thing with Big Boy is the fact that I wish that Big Boy would take on more songs with just him. I mean, I get it. He's having fun. Killer Mike's on it. And I think that as much music as Big Boy puts out and as much quality music as he puts out, because this is another quality song, I just wish he would show people that, 2-3 verses is just him. But that's just me as a fan.
I mean, that's you as a fan. So Big Boy is an institution down here in Atlanta, and they just need to be putting his shit out and everywhere and pay homage.
Definitely, because it's quality material every single time. I think that he doesn't know how to make subpar music. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's been a lifetime almost worth of quality material. Like, I've literally been listening to him since I was 13 years old, and very rarely does he disappoint. He always gives you a very solid, like you want to know, he consistently gives you a 4 on the solo tip, and you know what the group stuff looked like, and so
yeah, his solo material is very understated, especially when we talk about in the hip hop community. People act like it didn't happen.
How about this? You want to know what the problem is, Mike? Is that Speaker Box is actually one of his weaker solo efforts, and that's the effort that most people have heard.
And Speaker Box, that's my only thing, with Big Boy, my opinion. I think Speaker Box was that time to shine Because Dre clearly used it as his time to shine. And I think Big Boy just knocked it out. Like, I remember he was on 106, I think probably promoting Killer Mike's Monster with Killer Mike, and they were asking about, the next Outkast effort. He's like, man, I've been done with mine. We just waiting on Dre. And it's like, yeah, Dre took his time.
So even for that, it's like even with Speakerbox is probably like his weakest or second weakest effort, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah. So
good.
I mean, no, but it was good. It was a solid project. I felt like it just should have been shorter and more concise, and that's where he really like missed the mark at.
Well, my biggest problem with Speakerbox, to be perfectly honest with you, I think he had, once again, like what I just said, too many people on it. And I don't know if there were mixed signals there. Like, if Dre's gonna get on his album and kind of handle it himself, and just have really, what was it, 3 features, but 1 rap feature, which was Big Boy. I think Big Boy should have did something similar. I think that I get the flip flop rocks. You put Jay Z and Killer on
I
there,
didn't like that. I didn't like that.
but I understand that feature. That's cool. I like the other song Killer Mike was on more than that though. Bust. But I think that having Luda, it's just too many features. I wish he would have just kind of handled that album himself, kind of like Dre did on the other end. Cause I know he could do it, but it kind of came across as, I don't want to say a compilation, but it was just a lot of people on it where it was easy to ignore his efforts.
So do you know one of the things about Soul Food that I really love is that all the guest artists on the album kind of get in and get out early and really do their thing, and then kind of let the crew take the stage.
Yeah,
And that's how Speakerbox should have been put together.
yeah,
You should have gotten all your ducks in a row as far as your guest artists and guest appearances. When I mean guest artists and guest appearances, I don't mean what he did. I'm talking about the Dungeon family.
yeah,
That's why I'm bringing up Soul Food. It's like, no. Give me some Andre and CeeLo and Gipp and Breeze and Sleepy. Give me that in the first 5, 6, 7, 8 records, and then the next 6, 7, 8 records, go ahead and do your thing, because this is really your first time to shine. I want you to shine the right way. I don't
yeah.
think anybody was ever set up for success album-wise the way Goody's album Soul Food was set up, and that's why I go back to that. You have a blueprint within your own camp to look at about how to set up for success when you take flight.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't see Reset being early in the album, but that is a record that could definitely have closed the album out. I was really impressed with Reset.
Yeah, but even like that record, Happy. Didn't you feel like Happy came too soon on the album?
I think Happy
Like
is
a-
probably the. I think Happy might be the best song on there.
Don't you
Unhappy?
feel like it came too? No, see, I'm talking about how you put an album together.
Yeah, no,
You
you're
feel
right.
Like
It did.
soon.
Because it
Right.
was a more in-depth record. It came too early.
Right.
I agree, yeah.
Hold on. So if you remember how that album starts off, it's very high pace and high energy, and then Happy comes on, and it's like the record is great, but it's like he sucked some of the wind out when he did that, and it's like, no, don't do that, because you got great records before it, and this record is probably the best record on here. But push that back to about track number 10 or 11. So
And I say this respectfully because I like Speakerbox. I think it could have been tightened up a little bit.
That's what I'm.
And
saying.
even with
Speakerbox-
now I'm thinking about the songs, I'm thinking about War, I'm thinking about Church.
War.
It's like if these things could have been done and resequenced in a different way, yeah,
So executive production was a big problem on Speakerbox for me.
yeah,
That's what I mean about him being on his own. So he probably should have went back within camp and went back to a formula that worked when you go on your own. Goody Mob Cell Therapy and how they built up to it, and then took Dirty South. Like the whole setup for Soul Food is even better than Southern Playalistic, and it's been like, oh no, you're kind of on your own a little bit because this dude's not giving you records, like really. So like go back to camp and home base and kind of like tool it up that way, and that's what I wish you would have done, because a lot of the records are there. That's why I brought up Happy. It's like, because Mike, I think Happy and Bowtie are the best records on there. I also think they're too close together because they're two drastically different songs to be only like 2 or 3 tracks apart.
I just had a real quick before we get off, and you were just talking about Soul Food. I just had a conversation about cell therapy and Through the Wire being like two of the most gutsy first singles ever. And I think that when you think of
Maybe
everything
the two
that's,
most gutsy.
huh?
Maybe the two most gutsy.
And when you think about everything that is around Cell Therapy, it's one of the most impressive debut singles ever. I mean, because they
So
take it
can
there
can I tell you
on
what I
every
really think
level.
about that track? I think that might be the best track Organized Noise ever produced. That track, that beat, that's the beat to me.
It's timeless. I mean, it's one of those things that even the hook has been repeated so many times. It's so many sentiments in that
I'm talking
song.
about production wise with that track
Yeah,
because it's like it's creepy and churchy at the same time. It's like I don't know how they did that. How did they make it churchy and creepy all at once?
it's awesome, man. And it's indicative of who that group is to the core. Yeah, I know they went through a lot of different changes in their careers, but that song is who Goody Mob is, and it really lets you know what you were about to get into with this album too. You got four people with four different perspectives on each topic that we're talking about. Like everybody was very um,
And
individualized on that record. Like you know
no,
what I'm saying? You felt like you
no, no,
knew
no, no,
these
no.
people.
If you remember the video, it's like they're taking you to their parts of the hood.
Mm-hmm. It's
Right.
impressive, man. And looking back at it,
Store, they got CeeLo behind the gate that he's talking about. It's like, no, they set it up perfectly, Mike.
you know,
That's what
he
I'm talking about.
he
He
does
should
the
have
little
went
dance, so you know CeeLo's kind of a character too, you know.
right. Like that's what I'm talking about. How Big Boy should have went back to camp and just set it up the way they set up like that album, that song, like that whole setup. Mike, I mean, if you even listen to the records, it's like Dirty South and Sesame Street. Like there are like 3 or 4 records on there that probably should have been released before Cell Therapy. If you're talking about like the ability just to catch the listener's ear, but that's who they were. That's why it
Hmm.
was so gutsy. It's like, no, we coming out. How we coming out? Like
I mean, I
this
still
how
think Cell Therapy probably had the strongest hook, but I mean, you could debate that in Soul Food, maybe.
that's what
Um,
I mean. But Mike, Dirty South and Soul Food are more viable options as singles.
Dirty South has a very strong hook too. Wow, what an incredible effort. Second best album to ever come out of Atlanta, Georgia, in my opinion. So,
Third, yes,
yeah.
third.
All right, debate for another day. But yeah, next week I don't know what's dropping, but I'm sure it's gonna be something. And yeah, man, great conversation. And shout out to everybody in the room. Make sure y'all go to accordingtohiphop.com. Go read Coop's not interview, Coop's full out review on Tyler the Creators. If if you what's the name of the album? Tripping. It's such a long title. It throws me
Call
off.
me
Call me
if you get lost.
if you're lost. I keep wanting to say missing.
Call me if you get lost. No, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Call me if
Call
you
me if
get
you
lost.
get lost. That's how Drama would say it. Call me if you get lost.
Right, right. He keeps saying it over and over. So yeah, go to accordingtohiphop.com and read Coop's review on Call Me If You Get Lost, and go pick up that According to Hip Hop 2020 yearbook. We're in the midst of putting together the 2021 yearbook now. It's on Amazon right now. And you got any other shout outs, Coop, before we get out of here?
No, Mike, I forgot about the, it's like verse of the silent murder that we have, they pretty much cut off after the verses. I forgot about the part about the end where Nas is talking about Cain and Abel and how Cain's jealousy versus Abel drove him to murder. Like that, people forget how chilling silent murder is. At the end of the record, Nas is talking about like biblically how
Yeah,
Cain's jealousy versus his brother's Abel's offering being pleased with God,
yeah.
drove Cain like to murder him out of jealousy. And so he's speaking. So if you go back and then you actually listen to the record is actually about jealousy in the streets.
My favorite Nas song ever.
He's talking about jealousy in the streets, and then he goes back to some Old Testament scripture at the end
Yeah.
to like break down how the jealousy and envy has driven men to murder, like even from the inception of time, even biblically. That's goat shit, Mike. That's goat shit.
Yeah, it's probably you know what, and you know me, I'm shaky on it was written for certain reasons, and I think most of it's illmatic. But it might be the shakiest five mic effort because the high points are super high.
You don't. No, no, no. You want to know what it is? It was written is watching Barry Sanders on a 10-6 Detroit Lions team.
Yeah.
No
championship.
Did you see those 20, 50-yard runs he had this year? And we went to the playoffs. I know we lost in the first round, but did you see those 20, 50-yard runs?
And it came out.
5,000 yards on 20 runs.
And it came out in possibly the strongest year in hip hop history or recent history. So it's an arguable. So.
And it's top 5 album still to me in that year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a top 5 album. It's how about this? It's a top 5 rap album in a top 5 rap year, which means it's at least one of the 50 best rap albums ever.